Snowstorms did more than just trap people. They trapped feelings, thoughts, decisions you'd never consider otherwise. I learned that the hard way one ice December night in our Brooklyn brownstone. Mark, my husband, got called away on a last-minute business trip, leaving me to check on the place alone before the next blast of snow. His son, Ethan, from a previous marriage, volunteered to help, saying he could use the fresh air. Didn't think much of it at the time. The storm hit sooner than predicted, snow piling up so fast leaving became impossible. The ancient boiler wheezed and died, leaving us with just a sputtering fireplace for heat. By nightfall, inside was almost as cold as out. "We need to conserve heat," Ethan said, his breath misting in the dim light. Reluctantly, we piled blankets on the living room couch and huddled together. Awkward at first, too close, too personal. But as hours dragged on, the distance between us seemed to melt, even as snow piled higher outside. What started as necessity began to feel like something else entirely. The snow fell relentlessly, wind howling like something alive against the brownstone walls. By nightfall, the old furnace was totally gone, leaving Ethan and me bundled in layers trying to grab any warmth. Fire crackled weakly in the hearth. Not enough. "Think it's getting colder in here," I said, pulling my blanket tighter. Ethan, across from me, nodded grimly. "Is. If fire goes out, it'll be unbearable." His words chilled me more than the temperature. Storm hit earlier, fiercer than forecast, stranding us. No power, no cell service, no escape. Ethan stood, stacking more logs on the fire. "Help for a bit." Glanced back at me. "Need to stay warm. Body heat best way." I hesitated, unsure. "You mean?" He shrugged, earnest. "Share blankets. Just until storm passes." Wanted to refuse, insist we'd manage alone, but cold seeped deeper into the brownstone. Knew he was right. Survival, no room for propriety. "All right," I said, voice quiet. Ethan grabbed thickest blankets, draped them on the couch, hesitated before joining him, settling awkwardly beside him. "This okay?" His tone careful. I nodded, avoiding his gaze. "It's fine." At first, unbearable, physically, emotionally, acutely aware of every inch of space or lack thereof. But as hours passed, cold became common enemy, forcing us closer. "Better?" Ethan asked softly, breath visible in dim light. "Yes," I said, voice wavering. Silence grew heavy, broken only by wind outside. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Storm's worse than thought." I nodded. Years since seen one like this. He leaned back against couch, thoughtful. "Used to love coming here as a kid. Mom and I stay days sometimes. Just us." Mention of his mother surprised me. Ethan rarely talked about her. "Must have been close," I said. "Yeah." Faint smile. "She made this place feel like home." Words hit harder than expected. I'd tried to fill that role after marrying Mark, always felt like outsider. "Sorry if I've never quite measured up," I said, voice softer than intended. Ethan turned, startled. "What do you mean?" "No, I'm not her," I said awkwardly. "No hasn't been easy adjusting to me being in life." He shook head. "You've been good to me, Sarah, better than I probably deserve." Sincerity made my breath catch. Hours crept by, fire dying again. Ethan shifted closer, pulling blankets tighter. Freezing, low voice. "I'm fine," I replied, teeth chattering slightly. "Here." Wrapped arm around me, I stiffened, warmth undeniable, gradually relaxed, leaning in as cold receded. "You're like human heater," I said, trying to lighten mood. He chuckled softly. "Guess I'm good for something." Moment of silence. Storm raged outside. Quiet intimacy enveloped us. Night wore on, I grew more comfortable in Ethan's presence. Barriers, awkwardness, formalities dissolved in shared struggle. "Tell me something about yourself," he said suddenly, surprised. "Like what?" "Anything," he said. "Something I don't know." I hesitated. "Used to want to be a painter," I said, "before I married your father." "Why didn't you?" I shrugged. "Life got in way. Mark had career. Suppose I let dreams fall by wayside." Ethan's gaze softened. "Didn't have to give up what makes you happy." Words struck chord, stirring something I hadn't felt in years. "What about you?" I asked, desperate to change subject. "What did you want to be younger?" He smiled faintly. "Architect. Used to draw elaborate plans for castles, mansions. Mom always said I had imagination." "What happened?" He sighed. "Life got in way, guess." Words echoed mine, unspoken broken bond, shared loss for lives once envisioned. Woke next morning, storm abated. Sunlight streamed through frosted windows, golden glow on snow-covered landscape. Ethan already up, stoking fire, glanced over shoulder as I sat up. Morning, warm tone. Morning, I replied, pulling blanket tighter. Awkwardness from night before returned. Different now, less discomfort, more unspoken tension. Should be able to head out once roads cleared, casual voice. Good, I said quickly. Small part of me wasn't ready to leave cocoon of the brownstone. Packing up later, I wondered if Storm changed something between us, or if imagining it. Returning home, I thought tension would dissipate. Snowstorm anomaly, momentary lapse in boundaries born of necessity. But unpacking bags, settling back into familiar house, I realized something shifted. Ethan avoided me at first. Retreat to room, leave house for long stretches, only speak when spoken to. Told myself best, distance would bring us back to normal. But stomach tightened every time I glimpsed him in hallway, heard voice from next room. One evening, washing dishes, Ethan walked in. Hesitated in doorway, debating whether to leave. Everything okay? I asked, tone light. Yeah, he said, stepping further in. Just wanted to say thanks. Handling everything at Brownstone. Turned off water, dried hands, surprised by sudden sincerity. Don't have to thank me, you were one who kept us alive. He chuckled softly. Still, appreciate it. Eyes met, felt familiar pull again. Unspoken connection neither seemed able to ignore. Turning point late one night. Couldn't sleep, restless with thoughts I didn't want to acknowledge. Wandered downstairs to make tea, found Ethan in dimly lit living room, book in hands. You're up late, I said, startled. He looked up, expression softening. Couldn't sleep. Me neither, I admitted, sitting on couch across from him. Sat in comfortable silence. Ticking clock, only sound. Finally, Ethan closed book, leaned forward, elbows on knees. Can I ask you something? Hesitant voice. Of course, I replied. At the brownstone, did it feel different to you? Question hung in air, heavy with implications. Heart raced. Yes, I said finally, whisper. He nodded slowly, gaze dropping to floor. Thought it was just me. Wasn't, I said, deafening silence. Neither moved. Eventually, Ethan stood, crossed room, sitting beside me. Don't want to make things harder for you, he said, but can't stop thinking about it. Me neither, I admitted, voice trembling. When he leaned in, I didn't stop him. Kiss tentative at first, question, not demand. As it deepened, I knew we'd crossed line we couldn't uncross. Days followed, tried to avoid each other, pretending nothing happened would erase memory of that night. But pull between us too strong. One evening, Mark left for week-long business trip. Ethan and I alone in kitchen again. He pouring water when I walked in. Air crackled with tension. Can't keep doing this, I said. Voice lacked conviction. Why not? He asked, setting glass down, stepping closer. No one has to know. Not that simple, I said, back against counter as he approached. Could be, he murmured, hand brushing mine. When lips met mine, all reservations melted. Desire I couldn't deny. As relationship deepened, harder to keep secret. Hyper aware of people around us. Jessica, best friend, watched me during coffee dates. David, Mark's business partner, lingered too long in conversations with Ethan. You seem different lately, Jessica said one morning, lattes. Different how? I asked, feigning ignorance. Happier, she said, curious tone. More alive. I laughed nervously. Maybe just getting more sleep. Or maybe there's something or someone you're not telling me about, she teased. Playful smile, sharp eyes. Words stayed with me. Thin veil of secrecy between Ethan and me. David always nosy, interest in Ethan intensified after Mark mentioned son staying with us. One evening, dinner party, David cornered Ethan in kitchen. So, David said, swirling wine, what's it like staying here with Sarah? Ethan stiffened, glancing at me across room. It's fine, he said cautiously. David pressed, light but probing tone. She's lovely woman, isn't she? Ethan's jaw tightened. She is. David smirked, enjoying discomfort. Hope you're not giving her too much trouble. Ethan's eyes narrowed. I stepped in before it escalated. David, mind helping Mark in dining room? Polite but firm tone. Of course, David said, flashing annoying smile, leaving. What was that about? I asked Ethan once alone. Nothing, he said. Expression different story. Just being David. But I couldn't shake feeling David suspected more. As relationship progressed, risks harder to ignore. Ethan and I sneaking around more frequently, stealing moments early mornings, late nights. One evening, garden, Ethan turned to me, serious. What are we doing, Sarah? He asked. I sighed. Moonlit flowers. Don't know, I admitted. Don't want to hurt you, he said. You're not, I said quickly. But it's complicated. He reached for hand, firm grip. Willing to take risk if you are. Thrill, pang of fear. New stakes, couldn't walk away. Secret between Ethan and me, double life. By day, motions of normal household. Mark oblivious, consumed by work, social commitments. At night, Ethan and I tiptoed around each other, stealing moments like stolen treasure. Thrill, undeniable, risk too. Each shared glance, accidental touch, weight of questions. Who would notice? Who would tell? What would happen when they did? One afternoon, Mark at work, Ethan and I alone in living room. Sunlight streamed through curtains, soft golden glow. I sat on couch, book forgotten. Ethan leaned against armrest beside me, hand brushing mine. Someone might come home, I whispered, glancing nervously at door. Jessica texted she's taking Mark to that fundraiser, Ethan replied, low, confident voice. Assurance enough to let guard down, momentarily. But as Ethan leaned closer, front door opening sent jolt of panic. Sarah? Ethan? Mark's voice. We scrambled apart, hearts pounding. Mark walked in, brow furrowed. What's going on in here? Gaze darting between us. Just reading, I said quickly, holding up book. Ethan nodded, calm expression. Just about to head out. Mark stared moment longer, shrugged. All right, thought I heard voices. He left a room. I let out breath I hadn't realized holding. That was close, I whispered to Ethan once Mark gone. Too close, he agreed, jaw tight. As if situation wasn't complicated enough, Tiffany, Ethan's ex-girlfriend, reappeared. Unannounced one evening, bright smile, overly familiar demeanor instantly set me on edge. Hey, Nate, she said, brushing past me like I didn't exist. Thought I'd swing by, catch up. Ethan stiffened, eyes narrowing. What are you doing here, Tiffany? Just missed you, playful shrug. Is that crime? I hovered awkwardly, listening to conversation with growing knot in stomach. Shouldn't be here, Tiffany, Ethan said finally, firm tone. Why not? Tiffany asked, voice suspicion. Got something to hide? Conversation quieter after that. Presence lingered like dark cloud. Meanwhile, Jessica's curiosity about my behavior, outright suspicion. You've been distracted lately, she said during coffee date. Just had lot on plate, I replied, trying to sound casual. Jessica tilted head, eyes narrowing. Not just that, Sarah. You seem different. Happier, maybe. But also more tense. Words struck nerve, forced laugh. You're imagining things. Am I? She asked, skeptical tone. David's meddling darker turn when he overheard snippet of conversation he wasn't meant to. Ethan and I talking hushed tones in garden one evening, thinking alone. Have to be careful, I said, urgent voice. I know, Ethan replied, hand brushing mine. David's voice cut through air like knife. Careful about what? Both froze, turning to see him standing at patio edge, arms crossed, sly smile. David, I said, forcing smile. Didn't see you there. Clearly, he replied, gaze darting between us. What are you two whispering about? Nothing important, Ethan said quickly, sharp tone. David's smile widened. You two been spending a lot of time together lately. Makes person wonder. Chill ran down spine as he walked away, words heavy with implication. Tension in house boiling point as Mark began noticing subtle changes in my behavior. Something going on with you? He asked one evening, living room. What do you mean? I asked, heart racing. You've been distracted, he said, brow furrowing. Ethan's been acting strange too. Something I should know? No, I forced smile, shaking head. No, Mark, everything's fine. But I saw doubt in his eyes, knew only matter of time before he started digging deeper. Strain of keeping secret took toll on relationship with Ethan too. One evening, another close call, arguing in kitchen. This is getting too dangerous, I said, rising voice. Someone's going to figure it out. We can handle it, Ethan said, firm tone. Can we? I countered, frustration boiling over. Feels like everything falling apart. Ethan stepped closer, expression softening. Don't want to lose you, Sarah. words cut through anger. Breathless. Don't want to lose you either, I admitted. Even as we reconciled, couldn't shake feeling time running out. Moment nearly unraveled everything. Mark returned home unexpectedly during Stolen Moment. Ethan and I in garden, low voices, next steps. Have to stop this, I said, trembling voice. Do you really want to? Ethan asked, searching eyes. Before I could answer, Mark's voice sent us scrambling apart. What's going on out here? Suspicious tone. Just getting some air, I said quickly, forcing smile. Mark's gaze lingered moment too long, nodded, walked back inside. That was too close, I whispered to Ethan once Mark out of earshot. I know, he said, grim expression. David wasn't typed to keep quiet advantage. Day after garden encounter, arrived unannounced. Smug demeanor, hearty handshake greeting Mark. I watched kitchen, stomach sinking as David's gaze flicked to me, eyes narrowing slightly. Sarah, he said, tone dripping faint warmth. Good to see you. And you, I replied, steady voice, despite storm inside. David wasted no time, steering conversation to Ethan. Where's your stepson? Quite conversationalist these days, always so attentive. Mark raised eyebrow, glancing between David and me. Ethan? Out running errands, I said quickly, tension in voice noticeable. David smirked. Young man, wonder what keeps him so occupied. I excused myself, composure cracking, retreated upstairs. David's words clear warning, waiting for right moment to strike. Later evening, David cornered Ethan in driveway, returning home. I watched window, heart racing, voices rose. I know what you're up to, David said, sharp tone. Ethan crossed arms, defiant stance. Don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you do, David replied, stepping closer. You and Sarah, looks, whispers. Really think no one's noticed? Ethan's jaw tightened, didn't respond. David leaned in, voice dropping. Here's deal, kid. You leave town, I keep this to myself. Stay, I'll make sure Mark knows everything. Ethan didn't flinch. Think you can scare me? David smirked. Don't have to. Truth will do that for me. When Ethan told me what happened, first instinct, panic. Tell Mark, I said, pacing living room. Not if I leave, Ethan said quietly. No, I said firmly, turning to face him. We'll find another way. Ethan shook head. Sarah, this isn't just about us anymore. If he tells Mark, it'll ruin everything. Tears stung eyes, considering weight of words. What are you saying? Saying maybe it's time to end this, he said, voice trembling. Words knifed to chest, but I knew he was right. Longer we continued, more likely everything crashing down. Just as grappling with thought of losing Ethan, Jessica showed up unexpectedly. Called earlier, sensed something wrong. When I didn't pick up, came to house. Sarah, she said, sharp tone stepping inside. We need to talk. Jessica, now isn't good time, I said, ushering her out. Too bad, she said, crossing arms. You've been acting strange for weeks. I'm done pretending not to notice. Persistence cracked fragile dam. Truth spilled out. Oh my God, Jessica whispered, eyes wide, sinking onto couch. You and Ethan? Not what you think, I said quickly. Even I didn't believe words. Doesn't matter what I think, Jessica said, shaking voice. What matters what happens next. Do you have any idea what you're risking? I buried face in hands, unable to answer. True to word, David didn't wait long to make move. Following evening, showed up at house during dinner, smug expression, greeting Mark. David? Mark said, surprised. What brings you by? Oh, just thought I'd check in, David said, eyes darting to Ethan and me. Been noticing some interesting dynamics around here lately. Stomach churned as David's words hung in air, but Mark, oblivious, laughed. David, you've always been one for gossip. Come on, let's have drink. As Mark led David to study, I turned to Ethan, low voice. We're running out of time. I know, he said, jaw clenched. That night, Ethan came to me with plan. I'll talk to David, he said, resolute voice. No, I said, panic rising. You can't trust him. Not asking for trust, Ethan replied. But if I don't do something, he'll ruin everything. Despite protests, Ethan left house later night, determined to end David's threats. Ethan met David quiet bar outskirts of town. Dim lighting, low conversation, semblance of privacy. This your last chance, David said, sipping drink. Leave town or I destroy both of you. Ethan leaned forward, cold expression. You think you can control me, or Sarah? You're pathetic. David's smirk faltered. Careful, kid. Don't want to make enemy of me. Ethan didn't back down. You already are. David stormed out of bar, threats lingering air. When Ethan returned home, face pale but determined. "It's done," he said. "What did you do?" I asked, fear gripping me. "Nothing illegal," he replied, evasive tone. Peace short-lived. Next morning, Mark received anonymous email. Damning information to unravel everything. Early morning, Mark stormed kitchen, phone gripped tightly, face pale fury, jaw clenched. "Sarah!" he barked, slamming phone on counter. "What the hell is this?" I froze, eyes darting to phone. Screen, email, subject line ominous. "Truth about your wife and your son." Below, photos. Grainy, unmistakable. Stolen moments between Ethan and me. Captions worse. Dripping venom, accusation. "This has to be mistake," I stammered. Voice betrayed me. Mark's eyes narrowed. "Don't insult intelligence, Sarah. Been suspicious for weeks. Now I know why." Ethan entered room then, face pale, taking in scene. "What's going on?" Cautious voice. Mark turned on him, anger shifting like thunderstorm. "You know damn well what's going on. You've been sneaking around with my wife." "My wife!" Ethan stepped forward, hands raised, pleading gesture. "Mark, just listen." "Don't you dare tell me to listen," Mark shouted, voice cracking. "Welcomed you into my home. This how you repay me?" "Not as simple as you think," Ethan said, steady voice despite chaos. "Not as simple?" Mark laughed bitterly. "You seduced her, didn't you? Manipulated her, way you manipulate everyone else." "That's not what happened," I said, trembling voice. "Mark, please, let's talk about this." "Nothing to talk about," he said coldly. "I trusted you, Sarah. Gave you everything. You threw it away for him." Words cut deep. Before I could respond, Mark turned to Ethan again. "You're no son of mine. Pack things, get out of my house before..." Doorbell rang. I flinched, dreading fresh disaster. Mark opened door. Tiffany stood on porch, smug expression. "Tiffany," Ethan said, disbelief. "What are you doing here?" "Came to deliver rest of truth," she said, brushing past Mark into house. "What truth?" Mark demanded, sharp tone. Tiffany pulled out phone, holding up. "Think you'll want to hear this," she said, playing audio recording. Ethan's voice crackled, speaker, low, urgent tone. "David needs to back off. If he doesn't, I'll make sure he regrets it." Room silent as recording ended. "What's that supposed to mean?" Mark asked, gaze locking Ethan. "Not what it sounds like," Ethan said quickly. Tiffany smirked. "Oh, I think it's exactly what it sounds like. Ethan's been playing games, Mark. With David, with Sarah, with everyone." Mark turned to me, eyes betrayal. "Is this true? Did you know about this?" "I didn't," I said, hollow words. "Don't lie to me, Sarah," he said, shaking voice. "Don't even know who you are anymore." Ethan stepped between us. "Leave her out of this," he said firmly. "This is all about her," Mark snapped. "You don't think I see that? Everything you've done been for her?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "Maybe it has, but you drove her to it, Mark. You treated her like afterthought while you chased career." "Don't you dare lecture me about my marriage," Mark growled. Tension suffocating. Moment. Thought someone might throw punch. As if on cue, David's arrival shattered fragile control. Burst into house without knocking. Wild expression. "What hell going on here?" Mark demanded. David pointed at Ethan. "He threatened me. Said he'd ruin me if I didn't keep mouth shut." Ethan stepped forward, calm but firm voice. "You've been trying to blackmail us, David. Don't act like victim." "Blackmail?" Mark repeated, face twisting disbelief. "Yeah," David said, venomous tone, "because you deserve to know truth about what's been going on under your roof." Arguments spiraled, voices overlapping, accusations flew. Finally, Mark slammed fist on counter, silencing everyone. "Enough," he shouted. "Don't care who started what. I want all of you out of my house now." Stomach dropped. "Mark, please." "Save it," he said coldly. "I'll have divorce papers ready by end of week." Ethan's face darkened, didn't argue, instead turned to me, eyes regret. "I'll wait for you outside," he said softly, leaving room. Standing on porch, watching Ethan load car, ache deep chest. "Wasn't how I wanted it to end," I said quietly. He turned, pained expression. "Doesn't have to end. Come with me." I hesitated, weight of words. "I can't," I said finally, tears spilling. "I've already lost too much." Ethan nodded, jaw tightening. "I understand." Without another word, got in car, drove away, leaving me standing cold. Days followed, fallout consumed life. Jessica called repeatedly, concern evident, couldn't answer. Mark moved hotel, house eerily empty. Spent nights staring garden, replaying every choice led me here. Passion, risks, lies. All come at cost I wasn't sure I could bear. Yet part of me couldn't regret it. For first time years, felt alive, even if all ended ruin.